That was the tragic incident in which Los Angeles police officer William Jones shot and killed both an assault suspect in a Los Angeles department store and a teenager who happened to be there shopping. You can't see it in the video, but you can hear the faint screams coming from the dressing room, which was directly behind the suspect at the time the officer shot him. The screams are in response to the fatal shooting of a 14-year-old, Valentina Orellana-Peralta. The sounds of the screams certainly chilling, and the impact of this is being felt across Los Angeles as protesters are calling for the arrest of the officer. Joining me now for more, National Sheriff's Association President Vernon Stanforth and retired LAPD Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey. Sergeant, let's start with you. This is the first chance you and I have had to talk about this case. What did you think about how it went down?
The officers, I think, did tactically what it is that they're trained to do. We know that just seconds before they fired that fatal shot, that there was also another female victim at their feet who had just been savagely beaten by this suspect who had a lock on the end of a chain. And so they're going to be judged by the information that they knew at the time that they responded. Several witnesses had reported that there was a man with a gun, that shots were being fired, and that's how the officers responded, and that's what they were reacting to. So I don't expect that they would be, nor should they be criminally charged and or fired.
Sheriff, you've seen the protests. You think he should be charged?
Well, our heart goes out to the family. We understand that this is a victimization. Once again, it is difficult for us to look at this. It's difficult for anybody to look at this. It has to be. We have a country that's off the chart right now in violent crime. And you have an officer that's responding to a violent crime, and he's going to be judged now on his response. And was his response by the policy of the agency? Was it appropriate? What did he know going into that? And that's what we're going to be weighing in the coming weeks when this is in review.
Sergeant, you touched on a couple of these things on the way in here. What they knew going into this call, what they saw when they arrived at the scene, including one woman who was bleeding on the floor, I know there. But you heard other officers tell this lead officer to slow down. What do you make of that? And also, I'm wondering, tactically, you said the officer who takes the lead here has this rifle versus the other officers who appear to have handguns. What is it that you are seeing here that maybe other people aren't?
Well, I think a lot of people are interpreting the officers saying slow down as somehow being critical of the lead officer. What they're doing is communicating, which is what they were doing all along when they responded. They were yelling out to the suspect upstairs that LAPD is coming, make yourself visible. And slow down just lets the person in the front know that he may be getting ahead of the others, and they want to stay in formation. You saw the officers walking in formation. And so I don't interpret the slow down as them trying to stop him or impede his forward progression as much as I do them communicating to him, because he can't see what's going on behind him and he doesn't know the position of the other officers. And so I think that they tactically communicated well. Had the suspect been one row over, we may not be having this discussion at all. And so they were responding to what the suspect was doing.
I know, Sergeant, you've heard it out there in L.A., but why not use less lethal force at that point?
Well, there certainly was an opportunity to do that. And one of the officers that we see has, you see a green gun, that's a beanbag. Certainly less lethal could have been used. Now, why the officers didn't, why that one officer kind of pushed his way to the front with that long rifle, given that this is a department store, is something that he's going to have to answer to. But again, is it going to be criminal, or will this just be an administrative disciplinary training issue for my police chief, Mike Moore, to deal with this officer on that regard rather than something more harshly, as many are calling for?
Sheriff, you mentioned what we're dealing with here. 2021 was a rough year. There were several cities that set records for homicides, for gun deaths, for violence. We've seen all the smash and grabs. Across the board, this has become an issue. What do you think is ahead for 22, and how do we get this under control?
Well, I don't know if 2022 is going to be any different than 2021. We're in this spiral upward, and we've got to bring it down. We've got to address it. And we addressed this back in the 90s when we had the crime bill of 1993 was proposed in Congress. And we started putting money towards policing and doing it the right way, and we brought the crime down. And now we're seeing it spike back up. we've had this onslaught against our society, saying that everything's wrong, that our criminal justice system itself has been compromised, and we need to regroup. We need to get funds into the hands of local agencies to train their officers into the new dynamics of 2022 and forward.
Mm-hmm. Sergeant, we've gone through peaks like this before in the past, as you well know. How do we get out of it?
Well, I think we have to be reasonable on our requests and our responses. It can't be a knee-jerk response. And I know that there's a segment of society out there who think police officers should never use deadly force. But unfortunately, I don't believe that officers wake up in the morning wanting to do that. This was a very different and unique situation. And I don't know how the officers could have foreseen that there would be someone sheltering in place in that dressing room. As they approached that second level, it appeared to be barren of customers. Many were already outside before the officers responded. And so I think cooler heads need to prevail and let the department conduct their internal investigation and ultimately decide, based on all the information they have, what would be the best course of action.
That's retired LAPD Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey. Always good to have her, along with National Sheriff's Association President Vernon Stanford. Thank you both for your time tonight.
Thank you.